What's up, everyone? You know what night it is. Wednesday night, off-centered, with Dustin, the personal finance dad. We don't have a special guest tonight. Well, our default guest is special, but not in the best of ways. We're going to bring him on. We're going to talk about sports, the sports card market as we enter the holiday season, but also our top 5 worst investments, which was just a topic I sent to Dustin about 15, 20 minutes ago, and he was all about it. So that should be interesting. And we'll also have some learning lessons attached. So hopefully we don't repeat the same mistakes as last time. So with that being said, welcome back. Now let's get to work. Let's say hi to a couple of you guys in the chat. Troy is always in the house. Good to see you, Troy. Paul, Collector, MLB, NHL. That is a solid combo right here. Nothing like pizza, cards, and off-centered. I'm a MAME. Oh man, that's a tough one. I'm AIM Ashi 1. PSA 3, it's been a rough second half of 2021 for the market, but I'm optimistic about 2022, and maybe Dustin and I will touch on that. The Reg, good to see you as well. And yeah, totally, man. After March, actually, if you did buy in February or March when the prices were really high, then that's a pretty rough learning lesson when you paid $3,000 for an $800 card. But we're all doing it. We're all making mistakes. We're all learning. So it's all good. Brian, good to see you as well. Go Bucks. We have got to bounce back after that horrible loss to Washington. That was atrocious. Mike C., good to see you as well. Yeah, man. I mean, Alex Lafreniere, I'm not even following hockey too much. I know he was the big name last year. He could be a generational talent. He could be the next great one. However, why would you go in when the hype is really high and he's not proven and the pop counts are really low and they're only going to go up? So, like not buying rookies is pretty much the easiest thing for me. It's just too much unknown, too much hype. Let me bring on the guest. We know him as Black Office Chair. Dustin?
Oh, did you pull me in?
Yeah, I wanted to. Were you snacking on something?
All right, my bad. I was grabbing some water. I don't have enough drinks here. I only have the Diet Coke and the coffee. I had to get the other one.
Yeah, water's a solid go-to drink.
It's like, what if I get parched?
I just drink straight from the gallon like this, man. Anyway, I wanted to bring you on while you weren't there just to kind of put you on the spot and have you flustered. So what's up, man? How are you?
Pretty good. I mean, yeah, Brad gives me the topic about 15 minutes ago. And then right as we're about to go on, like 5 minutes ago, my daughter dropped her lamp downstairs and it just made this big loud noise. So I ran down there. Life as a dad. Brad, you know exactly what I mean, right?
I know I know the life of a deadbeat dad that runs out on the kids. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have kids, but yeah, it's crazy. We were talking about it. What stresses me out and what bothers me is like what you would kill for, because it's like, a bit of traffic is the worst part of a day for me. You know what I mean? And
Brad's like, my Starbucks was only 118 degrees. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. I said 126 degrees on my latte, and I swear it was 124 and a half. I mean, it was embarrassing. But what's up with you, man? How's life?
It's good. It's crazy busy like always, but can't complain. Like first world problems, honestly. Like there's nothing really all that crazy.
Good to hear. Good to see you, Ryan. Good to see you, South Stands 303. In terms of cards, well, a lot of people in the chat early. This is sweet. I think I'm getting them from you, Dustin, which is great. Phoenix Rising 2430. Look, we're going to talk about the worst 5 investments we've made. There's not really too much big news this week. Was there anything that caught your eye this week, Dustin?
Nothing too big other than that PSA regular service is going to open in 2 weeks. No big deal, Brad. Brad, of course, is like outside off the.
Yeah, I mean, I've been so disconnected. I got to look that up.
Yeah, no, actually, to be fair, it was kind of, it wasn't a headline news thing. It was more of like Nat Turner's IG account and everyone's speculating off of him saying regular opens in 2 weeks. I made a joke that he might be talking about regulating his diet. Maybe he's eating more fiber. It's just literally, it's an IG quote. Like there's nothing on the website or anything, at least that I saw.
I mean, yeah, I'm on the I'm on the website now looking ultra modern trading card, all that. It says not available, not available.
Yeah.
If it's still up here, but it still says 20 per card, 20 per card not available. Kind of like, wouldn't you bring it back at those prices? And if not, why don't you just eliminate the prior price if you're never going to bring it back at that price? Like, let me show you something. So, because this is big news, and I've been really busy. This might be the last live stream in this apartment because I'm planning on moving to my new apartment in a week's time, like literally Wednesday. So I don't know if I'll be able to join you, but regardless, a lot's going on. I'm working a lot. So
yeah, Brad promised that it's going to be an infinity pool in the background as opposed to the popcorn ceiling next time.
I hope so. I can't promise the infinity pool this go around, but we'll see we'll see how many cards I sell next year. But
yeah, as we talk about our worst investments in the infinity pool.
Yeah. So if I Google PSA, whatever economy service or whatever, this comes up, and you see 20 per card vintage not available, 20 per card not available, 25 per card not available. My whole thing is that why would you keep the price on here if you're not going to return to it? Wouldn't you just get rid of the price and just say ultra modern card 2018 to present, like not available, versus attach our mind to a price point of what it was in the past? Like, doesn't that kind of hint at returning at this price, or is that just me?
Well, and he did kind of, now not necessarily the price point, but he did kind of make a statement of like Nat Turner, I mean, of like, hey, we want to get back to where we were. Now, I don't know if he's probably talking about turnaround times. He didn't say like price points, I don't think. But yeah, you're right. It seems kind of like optically, why wouldn't they just pull that off so that everyone forgets about what the prices used to be, or whatever, people getting into the hobby are gonna be like, oh, it was $20,
it's like if McDonald's got rid of their dollar chicken nuggets or something, and they're like, not available, dollar chicken nuggets, but it's coming back, and then all of a sudden it's $2.50. Well, I mean, why don't you just say we're getting rid of our chicken nuggets versus we're getting rid of our chicken nuggets that used to cost $1? Wouldn't you? I just feel like eliminating the price would be better if you're going to set a new price. But if you stick to that price on your website, you're attaching people's expectations to that price. So anyway, that'd be great if that comes back.
Yeah. So Brad and I have the expectation of $25 service starting December 1st.
Perfect. Are you buying anything? You get anything this week or no? Selling anything?
What's funny is I got, just because and actually I sent it to my brother because my dad was in the Air Force growing up. And so the one thing that's always on an Air Force base is a bowling alley, like always. There's always a bowling alley for entertainment. So my brother and I always used to be bowlers. And so the big time bowlers growing up, and really kind of like the all-time greats outside of Earl Anthony, and then, who's the other guy? Anyway, I'm drawing a blank, but Walter A. Williams Jr. and Pete Weber, and his dad is Dick Weber. But those two guys would like battle growing up. We'd watch like the 90s bowling tournaments on ESPN Ocho, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And but
ESPN
I got
8, the Ocho.
The Ocho, yeah. I picked up I found Walter A. Williams Jr. My dad MacDill Air Force Base. My dad lives in Land O'Lakes. So
MacDill. MacDill. I'm very familiar with MacDill. Right at the heart of South Tampa.
There. Yeah. So I picked up two, like there's a 1990 bowling rookie cards set, like Sport Kings or something like that. And they're like rookie cards for these bowlers. And I got them both. They're both signed and they're graded. One's a 10 and one's a 9. But of course it's low pop because no one's sending that stuff in. It's not as if like it's low pop because it's crazy rare. It's low pop because people haven't been, after those, I'm sure. Yeah. But I picked those up. It was a good price point for what I was looking at. So, I picked those up. That's pretty much it this week. There's a local card show coming up December 10th. And so I'm trying to just hold out here. And my thought there is like, that's leading right up to holiday spending. Like December 10th is like prime time for people going out and spending money on holiday presents, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to go to that card show and just kind of see what it looks like, see if there's any deals there. So that's kind of my plan. I'm just going to chill for the next little bit and see how that show looks.
Okay. So interesting thing. Okay. Lots to talk about there. the whole pop count thing has been literally the number one theme. I think for a lot of us, it's been the number one theme that has hurt us because we're in that bracket of $100 to $3,000 cards where maybe we're on the lower end, maybe we're on the higher end. But if you're not on the super high end, pop counts have just pretty much destroyed us because we buy a card at a good, what we think is a good time and at a good price, only to realize that now there's 3 times that amount of cards out there, and maybe we only thought there was going to be 50% more or something like that, or there's going to be enough money flooding in to counteract whatever it grows to. But here's something interesting: is last night. All right, so I told you, I know I spoke to you about the podcast producer here in LA that is working on a podcast with me, and he's also reached out to Sasha and several others that live here in LA and wants to do projects with. And so I actually had dinner last night with him. Sim is his name.
I don't think I got his call yet. I keep checking my phone. I keep playing back all the voicemails. Haven't seen anything come back yet, but no worries. I'm ready.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I'll let him know. I'll let him know. Yeah. Dustin's on the list.
Tell him I visit LA a lot, even though I don't really. But okay, fine. It's just LA people. I'm going to take it that I'm not getting the call because it's just LA people. All right, go ahead.
There you go. So I had dinner last night with Sasha T, and Sim, and we were just talking about the card market and what's going on and all this. And even Sasha's strategy has changed a lot. And so like, he found some good deals off of PWCC's monthly auction, which it makes sense because if you're a buyer, then you go to these places that not everyone is familiar with or is doing right now. But if you're a seller, that's when it's tough. But he pretty much said at the card shows, the vendors don't really want to lose money. They're not moving cards at the prices or at the deals that it used to be. And so even he's had less content to create because his strategies had to change. He can't go in person because the card shows just aren't offering the same level of deals as they once were. So now, he's buying online and he's buying, from the PWCC auctions. And hopefully it's okay that I said that. I would imagine it's fine that I share that with you. But that also brings me back to remember, it was at the National that I went to send out a lot of my slabs to the different companies to sell, right? I sent some to eBay. Well, I listed some on eBay, listed those ones also on my slabs, listed on CompC, listed on Alt, listed on StarStock. And just like the deals he's finding on PWCC auctions is the same thing I'm noticing with trouble selling on these other platforms that don't have eBay attached. And it's because if you know about Alt, if you know about CompC directly, if you know about StarStock, if you know about the others, you're searching for deals. But that casual person that's willing to pay a bit more probably doesn't know all the comps and all the details and all the platforms that offer all this stuff. And so I feel like it's a better opportunity to buy off of these platforms that not very many people know about than to sell, because selling, you're hoping that the right person sees it at the right time. And right now, I feel like eBay is the only place where that's possible.
Yeah, where everyone sees it type thing. Yeah. No, you're right. It's like there's a lot of silos, like sales sites, where you really have to check around and see what's going on. Because I haven't been buying nearly as much as I was previously. I just haven't put the effort in on the PWCC sites. But I've been talking with some of my buddies though that were like, "Hey, watch the football in particular," because I buy Tom Brady stuff. They were like, I think it was maybe basketball that sold on PWCC fairly low. I can't remember. It was like the first auctions were like basketball or football or whatever. Or no, it was basketball or baseball or whatever it was. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, this stuff is selling for a lot less than comps." And so that's when a couple people pinged me and they were like, "Hey, we need to pay attention to football. PWCC is coming up. Like it's going to end like next weekend." This was a few weeks ago. And then it ended up being that it sold like about like a lot of the stuff sold for a lot, like close to comps for the stuff that I would be buying.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and it kind of sucks because when you buy so much early in the year, and I mean, that's been my story, is I bought so much early in order to move it, even at a decent profit, nothing amazing. But if 20% is the profit you're going to make, and then you subtract seller fees, and then you subtract the one card that someone tries to return, or maybe there's a scam, and the profit of like 10 cards gets wiped out just from one bad transaction, or minus fees, you're stuck with a 10% return. And on a $500 card, a $50 profit based on buying, selling, doing all of this, and the risk that it doesn't show up, or you get a complaint, or you get a potential return, it's just way too low. And so that's what's frustrating, right? I mean, that's what's frustrating, is that I bought early, and if I'm able to move it the way we were before, it would be very easy to buy again and keep this moving. But when it's like a standstill because people aren't buying the way they were, and people aren't willing to lose money, like, they don't want to just get out of their cards at half the price, then it's just tough to continue to buy when you have cards piling up that you really wanted to buy in order to move to something bigger and better. So that's kind of that's where I'm at right now, and it brings us to our discussion, which are our 5 worst investments. So why don't you go number 5? Why don't you start, and then we'll go back and forth.
I'll start. Yeah. So I've got like 3 different categories, I guess, but I'll just kind of start with one, which was speculating on backup QBs, or, or just, or starting QBs that maybe are just, a good one would, like, a good example would be Jacoby Brissett. So do you remember the time where, like, Jacoby Brissett, there was like, okay, he's starting, and maybe it was with the Colts last year. I think he's with a different team, this year.
He's with Miami. Yeah, he played a couple games.
He's with Miami. But last year, I think there was a lot more spec on this, last football season. I think he was with the Colts at that point. And he played a couple of games. His cards did get some movement and stuff. But I did that, so Brissett would be one. And then like Will Grier rookie cards. This one's numbered.
Ooh.
It's numbered. It's a press proof.
So what's the number to?
It's numbered to only 75. Oh, this is also going to act as a live auction, guys. So throw your bids into the chat.
yeah. Who wants a Will Grier?
Actually, yeah, our worst investment video just turned into like us trying to sell stuff.
Yeah. And then we sell for a ridiculous profit. It's like, hey, this was one of the best investments ever made.
Well, and the thing with these is like, one of these guys could be a Ryan Tannehill who did nothing for years, and all of a sudden he's a somebody. So it could work out, but I put too much emphasis on that and not enough. I was doing too much prospecting and not enough, buying into some of the other stuff. So that would be my first one.
Okay. Well, I actually had one that was along those lines, and that was Jared Stidham. And these were PSA 10s.
I've got some Stidhams too.
Yeah. Well, okay. So PSA 10s, Jared Stidham, Prism base. He was technically the starter of the New England Patriots in 2020 after the Patriots did not draft a QB. And he had a couple months of actually being the starter. And I remember I bought Jared Stidham cards, raw cards on ComC, and actually flipped them decently well. And then I thought, okay, even if Cam Newton's the starter, that's okay. Jared Stidham at $40 a piece for a PSA 10, how much lower can they go? Because if he's the second string guy, there's a good chance that he'll come in and play at some point. And you don't need much. You just need one little window where a player plays well, and then to be able to move it during that window of time. And then all of a sudden, he's not second string. He's injured. They draft Mac Jones. He's third string. I don't know if he's selling insurance or what he's doing now, but haven't heard his name ever since. And so now those cards are probably $10 to $15 max.
Yeah, I remember that was a weird situation because it was like, all right, they picked up Cam Newton, and I was thinking like, they're still going to start Jared Stidham. Like Cam Newton, I'm a Saints fan. I've been watching Cam Newton for years. He hasn't played good football since 2016, honestly. Mm-hmm. I know that he had 2 touchdowns last weekend or whatever, 3 for 4 for 8 yards and 2 TDs, whatever. Maybe he'll have a, kind of rekindle it in Carolina, but the guy has not played good football for a long time. And so I was thinking like, all right, well, Cam's not going to start in New England. It's going to be Jared Stidham. Jared Stidham's going to be the guy.
He's the future, right?
And then Cam Newton gets hurt. Stidham, I think, might have played a couple of games, and then I haven't seen him since. I don't know what happened.
I remember, okay, so this was a good question or comment by Rick. Yeah, reveal how much we paid. So the thing is, the worst investment, buying a Will Greer rookie card, numbered, optic, whatever, is not that bad if you bought it for $5. But if you bought it for $75 or $100, then you're like, oh man. So do you remember how much you paid for it?
Yeah, I mean, it adds up for some of this stuff. Like the Will Greer stuff, not much. You know, you're talking maybe like a few dollars a card or something. But I've got Jared Stidham optic hollows that I paid $25 for raw, not even graded. They were raw, and I was thinking like, well, it seems like, you know, decent value on like an up and coming guy. Optic hollows popular. So yeah, I paid, you know, anywhere from 20, I think maybe $30 was as high as I paid for, and I've got maybe 5 of them. You know, but I've got Josh Rosen, you know, autos, which are good. You know, it's like absolute auto rookies. And I got 5 of them for $20 each. So I'm like, yeah, it's $20 a card. Like it's $100, but where's Josh Rosen's like nowhere to be found. You know, a lot of these guys are nowhere to be found. It's just, there's such a lot of, I don't know if you want to call it talent at the QB position, or it's just that teams are drafting so many QBs to try to just try to find that next Tom Brady, that 6th-round pick that's going to be the GOAT. I don't know, but they, you know, there's so many QBs out there.
Yeah, and it's like when you think back, $25 for an optic hollow of Jared Stidham. It's funny to be like, oh, Jared Stidham, he's horrible, but any of these names could have turned out to be dreadful. Like saying, oh, Josh Allen, yeah, he's going to be okay, and then now we know him as one of the best in the league, but back then he was just another name, and there was hype and there was potential. But $25 for an optic hollow rookie card of a quarterback that's doing really well, like you would have been able to sell that for a few $100, but instead it's pretty much like firewood at this point.
Yeah. And I should have known better, because if you look at draft classes for QBs, the majority of QBs don't work out, you know, so it's like I should have known better.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's like if you're going to go in on a QB, then hopefully it is an under the radar QB versus someone that's hyped. I actually bought a couple Rosen cards on Comp C raw after like he was announced that it was before he made his comeback, but it was more like, where is this dude? I heard about him, and then I think I bought him on Comp C for literally $5 or $6 Prism base, and I think I may have sold 1 or 2 when it was announced he was coming back to the league. But again, too speculative for me, and going forward, I just don't want to lose money at this point. I'd rather make smaller gains, like smaller profits, but more guaranteed, than go in on a player assuming that the downside is already hit, and we don't know what the downside is, because the downside has continued to fall lower and lower, even compared to what we thought it would be. So yeah, Jared Stidham would be mine. Basically speculative quarterbacks would be our first one. Lots of people in Tampa or with Tampa roots in the chat. I saw that earlier. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, a lot of Tampa folks for sure. All right,
Yeah,
you want me to go to my next one?
Yeah, let's go to number 4.
Okay, well, I don't know if I've got like 5. I've already named off so many of them, but I just found this card, and this will be number 4 for me. Henry Ruggs Mosaic rookie card. I mean, it's got a $4 price tag on it. I think I negotiated this down to $2 or $3. But I was like, you know what? 1st-round receiver. It's like, yeah, we're going to go for some skill players. I didn't throw a bunch of money into Henry Ruggs. This is the only Henry Ruggs card I've got. But just an example of a few dollars probably down the drain. But who knows? Who knows?
Well, and I mean, here's the thing too, is we talk about how tough it is for a player to succeed on the field, and then you have someone like Henry Ruggs who's like, dude, what are you doing? He had like a DUI. He like had some manslaughter charges, right? Isn't it like manslaughter? Didn't he have a DUI?
I think it was going like 150 miles an hour or something. It was, if that's true, that's what I heard.
Yeah, and then it's just, you have players who, you know, like there's some players where you go, look, there's some red flags. We could see that you're like Johnny Manziel was a red flag talented player where you could see it ahead of time.
Ruggs is an Alabama receiver, which that's about as like, it's as much of a lock for the NFL, you know, as you can get, like between like Julio Jones and, you know, I was about to say Calvin Ridley, but then Calvin Ridley has basically retired, or he's, you know, out, he's done for the rest of the season. But Alabama receivers are typically like, you know, like if you're going to pick a skill player rookie, I would go like, for me, I was like, all right, I'll go with an Alabama receiver. Why not?
I mean, you just never know, right? You never know. And I mean, look, maybe it's like, look, we all make mistakes too. I don't know about the character of Henry Ruggs. I don't know the character, because sometimes I say I'm a really good driver, but once in a while I'll turn on a one way and be like, how in the world did I find this? Or how in the world am I did I miss that turn, or did I almost hit this person? And it's more of out of character. So I don't know what his character is, if he's a good person that made one horrible mistake because he had a couple more drinks that unleashed a really bad side, a very dangerous side, or that's just who he is, and that's more of like it catching up to him. But horrible situation. And again, it's one of those things where off the field, off the court, we can really be hurt. And that'll take me to my number 4, which is Deshaun Watson. And the logic behind it, I still really like, because while everyone was selling because they feared the worst, I wasn't in that boat of I fear the worst. I was more like, it's going to play out. But if you're a top 5 QB in the NFL and have a lot of years left, it's a lot easier to be forgiving as a team, knowing that a quarterback's the number 1 position. And if you have a top young quarterback, everyone wants every player on their team to be a class act, a good person. But we're fanatics. We have favorite teams and favorite players, but it's like at the end of it, we want to win a championship. So it's a lot easier to overlook someone's character when they're going to help us win, because then we get what we want. And what we want is to be associated with a champion. So the more fanatical the person is, the more forgiving they are towards athletes or whoever else that may do some things they don't agree with or like off the field. So I just felt like he would play, he would get traded, and he's still young with a lot of potential. And I'm surprised that he didn't get traded. I mean, he's still eligible to play at this point, to my knowledge. It just, nothing has been resolved. But the fact that the Texans asked so much and they wouldn't budge on their price and they didn't trade him, I thought that was disappointing. Now, I'm not a fan of Deshaun, so it's not like I'm a fan of, and look at this. I mean, here's the thing. What he did, what he's accused of is horrible, but it is all relative. Like, I wouldn't say it's Aaron Hernandez situation or Henry Ruggs bad, but the point is, it didn't pan out, but at least I bought at a good time. I bought at a good time, but knowing that he wouldn't get traded even this late, and he wouldn't be playing for the Texans as a starting quarterback this late, it's, didn't pan out.
Yeah. I mean, you can't foresee a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, no, we can't. Okay, let's move on to number 3.
Yeah, I don't even know where I put these. Project 2020 cards.
I was going to check under your coffee cup.
Yeah. I put them away so I don't have to look at them all the time because it hurts my feelings. But the thing is, I actually like the look of a lot of those cards. Like, I like the art cards. Now, a lot of people say like those aren't really baseball cards. They're more like art cards, so a lot of the baseball fans some baseball fans really like them, and some were like, yeah, but they're not like baseball cards, like the way that, you would collect baseball cards. But for those, I bought some of them on the secondary market. So it's not even, I got like a few of the Keith Shore Griffey 99,000 prints. I've got a few of those. I didn't buy 100 of them, thank goodness, but I did buy a few of them. And then I also bought some on the secondary market that were lower print runs. I guess part of me is kind of like, that thing might have like a cult following down the road, being that it all happened during the pandemic, in 2020, so I'll hold on to those for the next 40 years. And at some point, I'm going to get that $20 back.
Yeah, because well, it'll be happy 40th anniversary Tops Project 2020, and you'll get your $20 back because inflation will be so insanely bad that it'll really be worth about $1.50, but that will be $20 back then or in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the ones I bought. I did like the look of the ones that I bought. I got, some Jackie Robinsons. I like the Mr. Cartoon, I think, is the name of the main artist that I went after that I like. So at least I bought stuff that I like the look of, but it's just, I would have not gotten as many, I would have just I would have spread the resources out a little bit differently.
Yeah. And I mean, I saw this comment by Hockey 99. Good to see you. here's the issue I have is that I want to buy cards that I like. However, I don't want them to go down in value because at some point I might want to trade them out for new cards because I like the idea of being able to move cards. So if my cards just didn't lose value, it would be a lot easier. It
Yeah.
just sucks when you buy a card for 500 and then the trade value is only 250 or 300. So that's what's tough is that, if this was 2016, 2017, we could pretty much all afford most of the cards that we want to collect. But now, since we've added another zero to the equation, I mean, $1,000 card, I might want $1,000 card, but that's a big deal. A $2,000, a $3,000 card is a big deal because now I'm thinking, man, that's a vacation. That's like a lot of car payments. That's rent. That's like real life stuff. And that's to the point where even the stuff I want for myself, unless it's a couple dollars or it's like, I'm worth millions or something, it doesn't matter. I want to be very intentional with the cards I buy for myself or invest in just because it's big money now. And, even if I'm guaranteed not to lose money, I wouldn't care so much. But knowing how volatile the market is, I just don't want to buy something I like for hundreds of dollars more than it'll be worth. Because
Yeah.
I like being fluid too. I like buying cards that after 6 months I want to move because then I find something else I like even more. But it's just tougher when you have less trade value.
Well, and I think that's kind of the fun part or the fun challenge with cards is I want to buy cards that I like that I also win on. That's part of that's part of the fun challenge of it. But I'm in the same boat. I mean, I've got 4 kids. I've got responsibilities. I can't,
You have 4 kids that you know of.
Yeah, 4. That's probably more like a dozen. But anyway, 4 kids that are here. There's 4 kids. I've got responsibilities. I like collecting Drew Brees as my PC, but I'm not buying a bunch of random Drew Brees stuff. I'm very picky on the Drew Brees stuff that I want. That I feel like, okay, I'm getting good value here. There's some scarcity to it, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would love to buy Tom Brady cards, but I mean, the ones I'd like to buy the most are literally 5 figures.
Yeah, speaking of that, another pickup I just had. I don't think that I showed it last week, but it's the metal. It's the metal rookie.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was one that I picked up randomly. That just kind of popped up at pretty good value. But that's one where, But again, like not getting like amazing deals on it. If you look at the historical price, I'm paying like on the higher end. I just like the Brady stuff, But
I mean, you're fine there, and I mean, it is what it is. Okay, so who'd you say was number 4, number 3?
Oh, I feel like these are all going to run together, but these are good examples. So 2nd year, 3rd year, 4th year, silver prisms of like players that I like. So I like the cards, and I'm actually not upset that I bought these cards. And actually, I didn't pay an arm and a leg for them. Maybe $5 to $7 each or something. But did I need to get 3 or 4 of them? Like maybe I could have just got one, to where like I thought that maybe like hobby's expanding, and who knows, maybe down the road this card, will catch, there will be more demand for that stuff. Maybe Devin Booker will win a couple of championships. It'll change everything. Who knows? Actually, sneak peek to tomorrow's video is going to look back at pricing from 1990, and it'll just kind of show you how, everyone's like, oh, buying cards is dumb, or that's not, you can't make money in cards. Watch tomorrow's video and you'll understand a little bit. It'll add some perspective and context. How about that?
Wow, what a teaser. What a shameless plug for another one of your videos.
That's right. That'll be number 4 for tomorrow. No, I'm kidding. That's
okay. Okay, so I'm going to go a different route, and it's a different type of mistake. But there was a card that I was studying. It was a Shaquille O'Neal rookie card. And this one right here, I remember looking at the charts. I remember liking the card. I like Shaq overall. I feel like he's safe. Hall of Famer, one of the best centers ever. And this was a rare card. It's members only. And this is a rare card. And I remember seeing the prices. And I think it went like $1,500, $1,800, $2,000 in that crazy February period. And being like, yeah, but it's Shaq. It's a low pop card. It's a PSA 10. And I bought this. And I looked at it, I was like, man, this is a steal. Because I think I got it for $350 or something where I'm like, man, how does it go lower? It's low pop. It's everything. And I actually didn't look up the price. So I don't know what it is right now in terms of value. But when I bought it, I looked up online and saw this is the one I bought. And I looked up and I saw another one, members only, da 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 da. Da. Except this says members choice. Now on the eBay listing, it said members only. In fact, I looked at it weeks later, like I don't know, it was probably months later to be honest. I looked at it because I noticed both cards. I was like, wait, one has this gold thing. I said one has this gold thing on the top of the card, and this other one doesn't. What's the difference? And I looked and I saw that this is members choice, and this is a much more common card. However, on the eBay listing, the guy who I'm sure it was just a mistake because they have great feedback said members only, and so I was in a rush to buy it because the price looked good and it was about the same price or a bit more than it was actually. I think I paid a bit more for this one than the rare one. So he had this overpriced a lot. However, I thought this card was this card, and I didn't look at the actual card itself in detail. I only looked at the title. And then months later, I said, hey, I know it's really late, and so I'm not asking for a refund or anything. I just wanted to point out that, you in the title, it says members only, and the card itself is members choice, and there's a big difference in scarcity, but it was my mistake. I didn't look at it, and he said, oh, sorry about that, and thank you for telling me. And I didn't expect anything because it was my fault for not double checking and cross-referencing the title to the picture. But I think the learning lesson is just there are so many very minor variations, like PSA 9 versus 10, BGS 9.5 versus 9.5 with subgrades. There's so many small things, and it is tricky, sometimes to find the right card and the exact one you want, because now we have more parallels and variations and just confusing differences where the difference between one card and another could just be numbered to 10 versus numbered to 100, but yet that's a huge difference. So if someone accidentally types in numbered to 10 but they meant numbered to 100 and you didn't check it on the picture, you could be overpaying by a ton.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's a good point. I was just thinking of one too as we were sitting here. Now, again, I'm not upset really because I absolutely love the card, but where pricing is now for 89 score Barry Sanders rookie cards, PSA 9, I overpaid. Now I've got probably 6 of them, 5 or 6, and I wanted to kind of stockpile these. The thing though is I bought the most I paid, I think, was $300 for a couple, maybe 2 or 3 of them. I paid $275, $300. They've come down to $125, as low as $125, anywhere from like $125 to $175 for a PSA 9.
This is 89 score?
89 score Barry Sanders rookie.
Yeah,
I love
10.
the card. I love the card. And I think again, I wouldn't really call it a mistake just in the sense because I love that card. That's kind of like an all-time, card for me. It's one that I always wanted as a kid and never could afford. But it's just weird.
PSA 10.
No, PSA 9 for 89.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the 10 right now, and that's about 14.
Yeah, it's like 14 or 1700. That card actually got up to like $3,000. I would like to have it in a 10.
There's a couple sales over 3,000. Yeah, I'll pull up a chart just because it's an iconic card and obviously one of the best running backs ever. And then the 9. Well, I mean, here's the thing. And this would take me to one of the biggest learning lessons for me. But keep going on the.
Well, I was just going to say, like, once you get into the 80s stuff, there's a huge, huge discrepancy typically between the 9 and the 10. Even though it's not considered vintage necessarily, the 80s stuff, it still is, a lot of times, like, it's the same when you look at like John Elway and Dan Marino rookie cards. You'll have like a very limited number of 10s for that 84 tops, but the 9s are pretty readily available. And it's the same thing with 89 score Barry Sanders rookies. So you've got, and actually the pop on that 10 has grown pretty dramatically over the last 18 months.
Yeah. So it looks like they've just, Mark Movers has just started tracking the pop growth as of May.
Only from May. Yeah. But if you go back to, if you go back 2 years on this, I'm sure it's way, way less.
So let's see what this is. So about 8,000. So it's still not that much. 11%. Is this over over the entire? But yeah, there's a lot of these cards.
But I think what happened is, once it got up to $300, people were like, "Oh, well, shoot, I've got these. There's 9,000 of them or whatever. I'll sell mine for 300." So then you had a ton of supply hit the market at 300. Everyone's fighting to the bottom on those, and so then it brings it all the way down to, to 150, where it is now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes hand in hand with the whole, dude, this is like the craziest hobby / investment ever. This is like, I think about how complex cards are. It is so freaking complex. I feel so confident investing in anything else based on the lessons from cards. Like seriously, if you can master sports card investing, or at least collecting at the right time and moving at the right time, however you want to phrase it, but just understanding when to buy and sell so that you're not overpaying. I feel like you would just dominate crypto and the stock market, because when you think of Barry Sanders, you're like, I like Barry Sanders. I want to buy Barry Sanders. Okay, well, what card? What variation? What rookie card? Is there another rookie card? Are there parallels that are better, or parallels you like more?
Yeah.
Parallels with more upside.
Well, and this is why, so instead of buying like the score rookies, I've gone more, and not that I have a bunch of these, but I've been looking at more of this stuff, because like the Michael Jordan card, like of this is like thousands of dollars, and so that's where I've been looking at, the rare 90s inserts, but for football, because the basketball stuff is already through the roof. I mean, but that's where I'm trying to cross over, because Barry Sanders, he falls into that. It's like Shaq. They're all like in that junk wax era where it's like, I want Shaq rookies, but how many of them are really rare? Not many,
Well, and I think of it that way, where I like Shaq, I like Barry Sanders. What card, what grading company, what grade? Like, it's not just Bitcoin or Apple or Tesla or something. It's like, it's not enough to feel good about a player. It's now what card and variation, and the card does really well, but then there's a huge scandal around PSA, and now PSA is not viewed as well as before, and now your card is stuck attached to something else that could bring the value down. I mean, you get that same Barry Sanders card. Let's say that was a PSA 10. If that card was available at a HGA 10, it could be the exact same card, and yet it's brought down by the perceived value of the company. It is just so complex. It's like mind-boggling.
There could be a Barry Sanders 89 score cult that gathers 5,000 of them and burns them in a fire, and all of a sudden the nines are now rare. Like there's all sorts of weird. Like in the graded video game space, there's a bunch of, like, I don't know if you've seen the documentary, but the ET game for Atari is like considered one of the worst video games of all time. And there's a whole documentary about people. There's a rumor that like over 1 million cartridges, because it was such a bad game, that they just buried them, basically like buried them out in the desert. So these guys are on a mission to find the Atari games. And so they're out there digging out there in the desert, and they find them. They find these, like, they're digging into, and they find these Atari games. I think that's kind of the fun part of collectibles. You have all these weird, wonky things to consider when you're, buying, selling collectible stuff that doesn't pertain to anything else,
Yeah. I mean, the novelty and the fun factor is really it. And I mean, to be completely transparent, since the card prices have softened and I haven't been able to move cards and buy new ones, the excitement for me has worn off, to the point where even going into next year, I want to move my cards so I could just focus more on PC and maybe fractionalized investing, and just investing less money. But also, I mean, I want to invest in crypto and other things and keep that as a pure investment, and then go into cards in the way that I want. If the market every 6 months spiked and then plummeted, I'd be cool with it. But if it never spikes again in that way that we saw, it's hard to turn this into like a profitable business, unless you have grading opening, or you're going to card shows every weekend and you have your huge supply and you're moving it in person and you're making 15% here, $200 there type of thing. But to be able to do this remotely, which is the way I wanted, which is to buy way early, but then sell online at a good enough profit where you could pay for the fees. You can lose the occasional card, you can make the occasional bad investment, and it'd be okay. The one thing I'm thinking, and this one thing that me and Sim and Sasha talked a bit about last night, is when the backlog is complete, whenever that is, let's just say it's another 6 months, 8 months, when that is done, and we really have a good idea how many Anthony Davis rookie cards and Josh Allen Prism Silver rookie cards and whatever select, when that is all pretty much done, I think that's when we could actually see some decent movement based on performance. It's really freaking tough. And this is like, and this goes to my next, I guess my next bad purchase or next worst investment. And this is a card I love, but I'll show you in a second, is that until we get all the backlog sorted out, and even if that drops the card prices another 20%, 30%, something, 40% for some cases, then at least we have a baseline of supply. Like we know, like this is what the card is worth at this moment, with pretty much all of them accounted for, or 97% of them accounted for in a PSA 10. And when that's the case, then player plays well, there's some big news, there's some big surge, and then we could see it go up and down. But when you have a player that is doing really well, like Kyler Murray before the injury, playing really well, MVP talks, and all of a sudden his card should go up. It should, right? He's playing better. There should be more interest, goes up. But if every week there's 100 more of his cards in a PSA 10 coming back from PSA, you're pretty much like stunting his growth, because you're just throwing out more supply as the demand goes up. And you might be throwing out more cards in the market than the demand wants. Thus, his cards could be worth the same amount as a year ago, which I'm experiencing, in spite of him living up to the hype, at least temporarily. So when that's over with, I'm like, hopefully then we'll see some movement.
Yeah, I think that big picture, you have kind of all this demand for cards, and the industry is not able to really handle it. You know, look at all of it. It's like grading companies, all of them are backed up outside of maybe SGC. Manufacturers can't get product out. You know, there's still the basketball products coming out still have ball rookie cards. They don't have any of the Cade Cunningham stuff. You know, there's all sorts of issues. You know, there's eBay dealing with their own issues. There's PWCC issue. You know, there's all sorts of different issues. It's like the companies they've been treading water trying to catch up with this demand. So we're not really in any sort of efficient, you know, ever since really kind of that boom in the first quarter of 2021, PSA shuts down and everything is kind of crumbled around that. And I'm not saying it's only that, it's not, but you know, the whole like buy raw to grade has been a big part of what people have been doing it for years. And you stop that. And BGS, same thing. BGS is backlogged, you know, so I kind of agree with you to where it's like, it's going to take a little bit of time for all this stuff to get kind of worked out. And I do think we'll have more of a normal market. But right now it's a little bit wonky.
I see like 2020 was like mayhem that no one could keep up with. Like Target couldn't, scams on eBay increased, all these things. And everyone's like, what in the world's going on? We can't handle any of it. 2021 is more of an exhale where it's playing catch up and people leaving, people figuring out it's for them, it's not for them. I want to shift. I want to do things differently, or I want cards only to be this part-time thing versus full-time. And so now 2022, you know, as we enter 2022, I think we will see things being caught up, a bit more stability, and then some growth from the media side of it. I do want to talk about that other investment though.
Yeah.
And this goes back to just the overall theme. And I don't, what number are we on? Our number 3 bad investment?
I think that's the end of it. Well, for me, I think I hit on 4.
Okay. So, well, the next ones, and this goes hand in hand with the others. I have some Christian McCaffreys. I did sell a few, but I'm holding on to a few. And then I have a couple Michael Thomas rookie cards, and he's been the worst, like the biggest disappointment from a performance standpoint, because I bought his cards after he got injured thinking this is great. Top receiver in 2019. He has Drew Brees as the quarterback. If Drew Brees retires, at least, you know, the quarterback that has a noodle arm disappears, and Jameis Winston, who will throw for a lot of yards, for a lot of touchdowns, and it'll help Michael Thomas's numbers, even though he might throw to the opposing cornerbacks and safeties just as often. At least Michael Thomas's numbers should be really good. and he just hasn't even played since I bought these cards. And it's like 2 season-ending injuries for a receiver. And I'm like, and now, and more of his cards are getting graded, more PSA 9s coming out, more PSA 10s coming out, and I'm losing from not only him not playing, but also from the supply increasing. And I'm like, man, but
so
that
ironically, I just bought a Michael Thomas rookie card.
yeah, for like nothing, I'm sure.
So yeah, I found a select gold. His rookie, I think, is 2016. 2016 select gold, numbered out of 10, and it's signed. It's an auto for $130. So it wasn't cheap. It wasn't like they were giving it away. But if you think about like how a silver prism Michael Thomas topped out at $800 for a PSA 10,
and I think I paid like $230, and that was a really low price at the time.
And I also bid on one recently. I lost it, and it sold for like $93. Of course, like my top bid was like $90, and I lost it by $2 or $3. And yeah, it's a guy that might not ever play again. Like, who knows? Maybe it'll be like an ankle injury that just never goes away. But at least I'm also a Saints fan, so there's like, it's a really cool looking card too, because it's a gold. It's a select gold, and it's it's the black and gold colors. So, but that's not a card that I'm necessarily, if Michael Thomas gets hot and his cards go up, I will get rid of. I'll sell that card, and I don't buy those very often. But that was one where I was like,
it's a good gamble. Yeah, at that price for that rare of a card. Brian, all right, who were we talking about in the offseason? I know I mentioned Steph Curry a couple times, not even knowing the Warriors would play this well, but knowing that they were expected to be one of the higher seeds. But more importantly, we were talking about Steph Curry as that perfect type of player who's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He changes the way the game is played. He's very easy to root for based on his size and the way he plays. And when you have that level of legacy already established and you can add championships, I think that's like the perfect marriage. But now it's like his cards should be on fire. But offseason, I just thought 2010, it's a good year. You don't have to worry about pop counts of a lot of the cards doubling and tripling. And he's that perfect, well-established, but still has more room to win and do well. So it shouldn't really drop too much, worst case scenario, or at least long-term drop so much. So
I think with him too, the one thing that separates Steph Curry is because a lot of people focus on number of titles. I heard like he doesn't have a finals MVP or, whatever. He's not an amazing defensive player, whereas like LeBron and Michael Jordan are also very good, defensive players. LeBron still is. So, but Steph Curry, in my mind, is going to go down as the best shooter of all time. And that will be his. I don't think that anyone takes it away from him, at least not, for decades, just because the amount of threes he's made over time, it's still growing, his percentages, everything. I think he will go down as the greatest shooter of all time. And like you said, he changed the way that people play. Now, people are shooting from the logo because of Steph Curry. They're pulling up and taking threes from the logo because of him. Without Steph Curry, no, they're just not doing that.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a kid and you're not 6'8", who are you looking at on the court and rooting for? Because even at like I'm 6'3", but I could look at like a center because I used to play more like a center just because I didn't have real skills, so I would just rely on being taller and having longer arms than most other people. But the way that Steph Curry is so small and yet makes these giants look like fools, I think there's like a David and Goliath type of element to his play, which I think is really cool because you just naturally want to root for the smaller dude who shouldn't succeed against the monster, the guy that has really long arms and has this huge physique like a LeBron James, who very few people can acquire that type of body. Now, very few people could acquire the level of talent to shoot like Steph, but still it's a bit more inspiring.
Yeah, it really is. It's like he can dominate the game just as much, like you said, just as much as a guy like LeBron, who is physically, just a physical specimen that can just out athlete everyone else on the court. But Steph Curry doesn't even need that. He just has to show up and do his thing. I mean, it's impressive.
Interesting, Brian. There was another one here. The answer is no. but if there is like a gold 1 of 1, 1 of 10 PSA 10, I'm like, and it's $40 autographed, I'd be like, that is tempting, because again, it could be like one of those epic comebacks 2 years down the road. 2 years down the road, like going through this whole dark night of the soul, prison time, giving back, and then we see these stories like we saw with Alex Smith from an injury standpoint. Like Alex Smith had like one of the craziest comeback stories ever from an injury, where I think his leg was almost going to get amputated because he had like an infection. But you hear that from time to time. I would not count on it, but you just never know. The Simpsons, not OJ Simpson. Okay, so that takes me to one of the worst investments, even though I love the card, and that was my Kobe Topps PSA 9. And I love the card, but I paid $900 for it, and I think now it's around 300. And that was one of the cards that I thought this was mostly filled with a pop count. I thought this was like pretty much done since it's a 1996, and the pop count just grew like crazy. And I love the card itself, but again, I don't want to pay $900 for a card that's going to be worth 300. Period. Like period. You know, so that's just that. Yeah, that's it for me. You know, it doesn't matter how much I love the card. I want it to maintain the value or go up, or I just wait until it does drop to the very bottom. But I bought too early, and just like that one, I bought a couple of these Hakeem Olajuwon Fleer 86 PSA 9s. I bought 2 of them, and I paid $1,400 a piece. And at the time, it looked good. But the reason why they were mistakes, even with the data being where they were at, is because at the beginning of the year, I was very eager to invest. I was very eager to put in a lot because I saw the pattern over 2020, and I wanted to buy early in the year so I could sell in the middle of the year and hopefully do it again, and not go after a crazy high profit, but go after like 40%, 50%, which is still very good. But I thought that was reasonable based on the fact that a lot of these cards were going for 2 to 3x in 2020. And I thought 50% was reasonable. But obviously 2021 was a way different market. So
well, and I think too, it's like, you know, you're trying to, I think a lot of us too are trying to strike that balance of like all-time greats. You know, it's like, oh, I want to be buying into like the MJs and the Jordans and LeBrons, and that base rookie card might have been kind of the only real entry point. You know, even at $900, you're probably, you know, stretching to get that card, but you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to get a $50,000 Kobe auto patch, whatever, but this is how I can get in on Kobe, you know.
But here's the big thing. And this is like where I feel like cards is really separating. The sports cards are separating. I couldn't go in on that $50,000 Kobe card, but if I went in on shares of that card on one of these fractionalized platforms, I would have done way better, because these 1% of the 1% of the 1% of cards, the super rare stuff, is doing better than ever. And that's where it's a different audience. I feel like the collectors of that level, and we talk about this all the time, the collectors at that level, they see this as an alternative investment. They see it as artwork. They have the money to be able to throw a couple $1 million at towards a certain card. Below that, it's kind of a nightmare, because then you have cards that are Topps Chrome rookie card or Prism-based rookie card, where that might be the max of our budget or a lot of people's budgets, but those people are in and out. It's a lot of volatility, it's a lot of change, and it's kind of like a storm, while those cards that are doing really well are like floating above the rain clouds, where it's just like, you know, that is just the epitome of what everyone would love to have. And yeah, I'd rather own 5 or 10% of something amazing than 100% of something that sucks.
I will say, though, Chris K kind of mentions that their 1986 is the GOAT of hoops cards. I still think those Hakeems will be fine for you if you held on to them long term, because the thing is the 10s are so, I mean, I don't know what the pop is for the 10s, but there's not a lot. There's never going to be a ton of PSA 10s of that card. And that 9 will kind of be that entry point where it's like, you know, that's the best that I can get, because I'm not going to spend. I mean, what's a 10? I'm just going to look it up and see if I can figure out what a 10 is going for right now.
Yeah, let me see. Stand by, people.
$7,200 for a 10. Oh, okay. There's actually more. There's 327 tens. There's actually more than I thought, but still, it's not. It's not.
It's
It's
not
never going to be
healthy.
5,000.
Right. Well, so I mean, the point is that long term it should be fine. I didn't want to wait long term because again, I love getting in and out because I think it's
Right.
fun. It's fun being like, hey, I saw an opportunity, I want to buy it, and then I want to get into something else, and then here's an opportunity. It's way more fun when cards go up in value and you can move them versus when you're holding because now not being able to move these stops me from buying the other cards I want to buy, even for myself. Like even if like Rob Gronkowski is a player that I'm like, I'd love to buy his cards now and hold for several years. But if it goes up enough in price, I'll sell and then maybe buy back in the future. Tom Brady, certain cards there, but again, I can't have $10,000 of cards just sitting there and then continuing to buy unless I'm making even more money somewhere else and everything else is taken care of. But it's much easier when everything's flowing. So um, anyway, any final thoughts?
Yeah, speaking of Tom Brady, I need him to keep playing like he did last Sunday. For one, because I'm a Saints fan. Number two, because I want to buy more Tom Brady cards, and I would like to see a little sag in pricing. If performance is still tied to it to some degree, I need him to just kind of like start acting like a 44-year-old, start playing like it.
Dude, I can't believe they lost. I mean, it's just astounding that the Bucks lost to Washington. I was like, how in the world? And I think it's just after the bye week they were really rusty, and there might be some Super Bowl
He needs some. He needs some.
hangover.
I don't think he had Gronk, and he's a different
Oh no.
player. When he's got Gronk on the field, he's different.
I mean, it is a very noticeable difference because the rapport is so good. Like on the field, you have no guessing. Like there's no bad routes. You're just like, there's Gronk. Like period. There's Gronk. Just dump it off 8 yards, 12 yards, whatever, and it's very obvious. So anyway, it is what it is. But I think one thing that is interesting is that Kansas City. I know there was some people in the chat talking about the Chiefs. Kansas City, after struggling against Green Bay, but actually winning because they had Jordan Love, not Aaron Rodgers, they looked really good against the Gruden and Ruggsless Raiders. And so, even though the schedule is very tough, this is a season of streaks, or this is a sport of winning streaks and losing streaks. And you never know. Maybe they'll get hot at the right time. I hope so because I have a lot of Patrick Mahomes cards I'd love to sell. But that's why it's also like, hey, don't overreact because winning 3 games in a row doesn't mean you're going to win the Super Bowl, but losing 3 games in a row doesn't mean you're going to be out of the playoffs, especially this early in the year. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the parity in football is insane. I mean, you can be 16-0, 17-0. That's Larry Smith right there. Mahomes 86. I think I saw in the chat that's Larry Smith. Larry Smith was talking up Mahomes and then probably sold all of his Mahomes stuff. That's probably what happened. And now he's back with Mahomes to the moon.
That's right. All right. Anyway, Dustin, great having you on as usual. Great seeing you guys. This might be the last time I'm in this apartment before I move. I think Wednesday of next week is the day I get my keys of my other apartment. So hopefully I could join you next week. It might be a bit scattered, but I'd love to be able to do this the day before Thanksgiving. If you're free, I think it'd be a pretty cool thing to join and do a little pre-Thanksgiving chat about cards. And maybe we'll do 5 things we're thankful for. Maybe we want to do that.
I can only come up with 2.
Yeah. I mean, like I'll have to be studying this all week. I'll have to be working on this. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.